Okay. I guess that's what we call a task failed successfully shot again. Isn't that right, Foxy? Yes! Ah, isn't this so cool, man? You know, I'm not the best at pool, but on some nights, Mr. Foxy, I tend to do pretty well. Hey there! Man, it's been a while since I've seen you around here. It's already Troy here, the doctor is in. I'm just playing a little bit of pool here. You know, I've been thinking about this. For a little bit of time. Most home worlds, as I've mentioned in the past, have games like, pool, they have beer pong, they have all kinds of things. And most worlds tend to borrow those same assets. However, what if there was some, I don't know, worlds that mimicked some of America's favorite game shows? What if there was a chance where you could actually play your favorite game show here in Vrchat? Well, guess what, everybody? There's quite a few maps for this. In this new Vrchat 101, we're actually going to take a little field trip, if you will, to go see some of these maps and things. Did somebody say travel? What the? Hi, fellow Nardo. I heard that you were going to do some traveling. Well, yes, I did say that we were going to be traveling to these different worlds, but this is Vrchat 101, not the Traveling Nardo. I like your show, though, but this is kind of my spiel. This is Vrchat 101? Oh, yeah. I thought the map looked familiar. My mistake. That's okay. Old habits die hard anyway. You know what? While I'm gone, do you think you can look after Mr. Foxy for me? Of course I can look after Mr. Foxy for you. He really is a cute little guy. But before I do, I'm a little thirsty. Do you have any soda somewhere? Yep. Second level, refrigerator, try the second or third shelf. Thank you, friend. I'll take care of Mr. Foxy immediately. Off he goes. So in this Vrchat 101, we're going to go traveling to a couple of these game show worlds, and I'm going to show you folks, let's say I'm going to show you three. I'm going to show you three game show worlds that were made to look exactly like three of your favorite game shows, in a little segment that I'm going to call... What am I going to call this? Oh, I know. 3 game show worlds you need to favorite. That'll work. Roll the intro. Game show worlds on Vrchat offer a really good alternative to all those other types of, game worlds like, Murder 4 or Better Uno or, just the same damn game just with a different name. Game shows that we used to watch on television, or we still do to this day, helped us through a lot of different things. Maybe it was morning time, and maybe you were sick. Maybe you were sick at home and couldn't be with friends or couldn't even go to school. Then you were probably watching The Price is Right with the one and only Bob Barker. Or maybe you were watching some other daytime shows like Family Feud, Super Password, what are some other ones? Let's Make a Deal, and, many more. Or maybe you came home from a very long day and you wanted to just sit down and have some fun. So that's where we had Jeopardy come in with the late great Alex Trebek, Wheel of Fortune with Pat Sajak, or in some cases, and especially if you grew up in the 2000s, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with the late great Regis Philbin. Yes, he was a game show host as well. Probably one of the cool things about, hosting a game show here in Vrchat is that there's quite a few, and many of these are actually really cool. Because, do you want to know something cool? Most of these game show worlds are made by a friend of mine by the name of Genesis. Genesis is the one who came up with all these really cool maps. And today, we're going to showcase not one, not two, but 3 of these. That looks so weird, so let's try it again. 3 of these. That still looks weird, but we're keeping it in. Anywho. So, our first world that we're going to be checking out is probably one of the more popular worlds. Or I should say, it's one of those really great worlds that, well, it asks you to spin, solve, or buy a vowel. We're talking about Wheel of Fortune. Yes, my friends, this is Wheel of Fortune. This is one of the many game show maps that you guys can check out. Now, everybody knows Wheel of Fortune is, right? Well, in case you don't, it's basically a really classic and cool take on the old game Hangman, where it was very simple. Players would spin the wheel, which I'll show in a sec, guess a letter, and see if it pops up on the board. And if it popped up, then it would be revealed. And as you can see here, this map actually has everything right down to the smallest detail, even right down to the old times when they used to actually turn the letters like this. Pretty neat, isn't it? This is probably one of the coolest game worlds out there, and it's actually one that's a lot of fun to, check out and also relive a lot of memories. So here, let's have a look-see at the rest of the set, shall we? As you can see here, this map has the wheel because this is set up just like the way Wheel of Fortune did in the 1980s, and it's really cool too, because everything is accurate to the 1989 edition of Wheel of Fortune, right down to the smallest details. Now, to get this world going, you're going to need a couple of different people. In fact, you're actually going to need a grand total of about 6 people at least, because you need 1 Pat Sajak, 1 Vanna White, 3 contestants, and a board runner. That's right. Every single one of these game show worlds has a board for somebody to operate. Here, let's go into the control room and I'll show you right now. This here is the board. This is actually where one of your friends can work out everything. Because in order to operate this type of game show, you kind of have to have a board operator to not only set up the puzzles, but also plug in a bunch of things, such as come up with the puzzles for everybody, add up the scores, and also work the cameras if you want to set it up sort of similar like they like to do on the show. In fact, all these different camera angles are actually set up to mimic the exact same camera angles that you would see on the actual TV show. Here's a little bird's eye view of the different buttons that are over here on the left side of the console. Each one of these, when pressed, actually does something a little bit different to the world. For example, let's say I was to hit this button this will actually reveal the category. And the category would appear in front of the other players, as well as also on the television screen that's off to my left. I can also use this to kill the lights on the board. I can also toggle the random prize wedge and do all kinds of cool things. Even hit the buzzer, and also hit the infamous bankrupt sound. But of course, no map of Wheel of Fortune is complete without this. That famous intro. If I can get to it.
Wheel of Fortune!
There it goes. So now you start the show, and you can get everybody going. The cool thing, too, is that everything is very accurate. And you can also make your own puzzles, too. Just to make sure that, you know, you kind of keep it. Of course, if it is your own business, then yes, you can probably go, you know, weird, because you're weird like that, and I like that. I mentioned the camera work in here. If you were to host your very own episode of Wheel of Fortune and you wanted to upload it to YouTube or any other place, and you want to make it look as authentic as possible, then this board right here helps you. So right now you can actually see right here that there is actually a shot of basically the intro. But if I hit this blue button here, what it will actually do is that it should start the whole sequence. There it goes. It's actually starting the whole sequence of the intro. So it shows you everything, and this is usually when the board runner is announcing the script and everything. And you can see that it goes over this, and as you can see, there's $138,000 worth of prizes over there. And then of course, you know, you would hear, and now here are the hosts of Wheel of Fortune, Pat Sajak and Vanna White. Then they would come walking out like this. And then you can also hit this again to zoom in on the host, so that's where the host would be right there. And then as you can see, there's actually other buttons here. Each one of these can go to the hosts and the players. So if we wanted to go to this shot, we could. Or we could do a close-up of the host again. Or let's say we show the puzzle. There it is. There it is in front of us. And remember what I said about the category? Well, let's see if it'll reveal here. It's not revealed because I need to put it up, so give me 1 second. Let's try this really quick. Alright, so anyway, now that we have it there is the category. And there's also other things too, which you can also check out. Player 1, which is over there on the red spot, Player 2 and Player 3, etc. and so on. So there's definitely a lot of cool things that you can do with this world. And another great thing too is that there's also an NES version of this world too. So if you're in the mood to do some NES stuff, or you want to do the original, then you got choices. Of course, one of the greatest things too is to also give the wheel a spin. Now, now obviously we don't have any other people here, but you know what? Before we go to the next world, I really want to spin this wheel. So let me just give it a spin so I can just live out a little dream. Let's see if I can grab it here. Let's see what it'll land on. We're looking at the red side. 150. Okay, not too bad there. I mean, I'll take it. So Wheel of Fortune is a really great alternative to any of those other game maps. But you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this is cool and all, but I got a big group of friends. And since only 3 of them can play, And because of the fact that somebody has to come up with these puzzles, that's going to be a problem. Well, let's say you have a big group of people. I'm talking like maybe, 10 people, or even like a dozen. Let's say it's one of those bigger groups. Well, I think I got just the game for you. Because there is another game out there, made by the same guy, Genesis, who not only made this world, but also made a world that popularized the famous phrase that everybody says, and I quote, "Survey says."
It's time for the Family Feud. Introducing the Patrica family. Tony, Jean, Andrea, Anthony, and Mary, ready for action. And the Risser family. Emily, Nancy, Bill, Louise, and Bruce. On your marks, let's start the Family Feud. With the star of Family Feud, Richard Dawson.
So here it is, everybody. The Family Feud. Boy, this set is super, super cool, isn't it? And you know what's cool, too, is that this is one of the more popular maps that was made by Genesis and is played by many people. A lot of different streamers tend to gravitate towards this particular world anyway. Now, some of you probably remember, seeing the version that's on right now that involves Steve Harvey. Well, I'm here to tell you something, pal. This version is not the Steve Harvey version. No. This version closely resembles what was on when both British actor Richard Dawson was on and Ray Combs was on. A quick little bit of history here. Richard Dawson was a British actor who came over here to America and was one of the characters on the classic television show Hogan's Heroes. He was also the 5th panelist member on Match Game. Usually sat in the bottom row, basically bottom row middle. Sometimes next to Betty White and Fannie Flagg. Meanwhile, Ray Combs was another game show host who hosted the later version of this when Richard Dawson ended up retiring from the whole thing. So this version is much closer to what we grew up with, especially on GSN. So it's actually a lot of fun to come here and play. This is one of those worlds where you kind of need a lot of people to play. Here's the deal. You need one host, one board runner, and, if you can get it, 10 people. Yes, you counted them, 10 people. To basically be here on the different families. Now, if you live under a rock and you don't know what Family Feud is, let me go ahead and give you a few little pointers as to how it works. On one side of the stage, there would be one family, and on the other side of the stage would be a second family. Each family consisting of 5 family members. And what they would do is very simple. Over on this side, which is the one that has a logo on it, would be the head of the family. And what would happen is that the two families would go head to head to figure out what was said on a survey. The two players would come right here, shake hands, and would get ready to listen carefully to the survey question. 2 family members, one from each team, come here to the middle to get ready to answer the survey question. And these buzzers were in front of them. After the host answered the question, they would both smack these buzzers, and whichever one that it was pointed to is who they would ask for the answer to that survey. So, like, here, let's do this. We'll give you a pretty cool example, because underneath here is actually the card. This is what the host will use to read out the question. So let's say this. The question could be something as simple as, name something that people might take with them on a first date. So then they would probably think, but the faster you buzz in, the better the chance. So once you know something, buzz in, say a response, and then we would turn around and go up to the big board. But I think I need to turn the big board around. So, over to the control room right now. Here's the control room now. This is set up very similar to the one in the Wheel of Fortune world, but some of the controls are a little bit more simplified. For example, if I was to hit this button over here, some of these green buttons, these will make some different sounds. So I can play the short bells, the longer bells, especially if somebody won, and those are always fun to mess with. And if we have the face-off, which is actually what we were just at just now, or whoever won it. And of course, I did say something about the big board, so let's go ahead and I'll put the camera right here so you guys can actually see it. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate the face. So now you can see that there's actually a question up there, or actually that there's a bunch of stuff. And here's one of the answers. Now, because of this, due to the fact that the answers were just were shown as soon as I rotated the thing on the screen, I had to censor those answers, so that way none of you can cheat if this question ever comes up. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how it works. So when you actually go to put up an answer, in fact, let's rotate the camera around so you can see this. The first thing that you want to do is very simple. If you're one of the board operators, you will notice that there's a number next to the answer plaque. Now you don't see it there on the big board, but on the board inside here, you have to hit those first. So, for example, let's say somebody got the number 3 response. You have to hit the number 3 on here, so that way the points show up. Then reveal the answer. Because here's the thing. If you just reveal an answer, like let's say you reveal the number 5 answer, and you forget to hit that, the points don't show up. Unless you hit it afterwards. But it's better if you hit the point thing first, then hit that. This way it'll be a little bit easier, it'll be a bit more like the show, and then, of course, if anybody wins those points or something like that, let's go ahead and hit another one here really quick. Same thing again. And then in here, whoever wins the most points will either go to the left or go to the right. So if I want the left side family to win, I can have them get the points. Pretty neat, huh? There's also buttons here to also put the game in fast money mode, also to start the double round and triple round. Those are brand new. And you can also reset the board too, which in turn resets everything. You can also put the names of the families you want, and when you use these buttons here, it actually creates the strike sound, which is used from time to time, especially when, somebody gets a wrong answer, or they take too long, or whatever. Now, sometimes, if you don't have, 10 people to play with, it's okay. Because you know what you can even do? You can even do what we call a simplified version, where you could have families of 3 or 4, and then just kind of go from there. And the best part is that this place has countless surveys. So chances are you're never going to run through every single survey in just one sit down. However, there is one complication though that you gotta take notice of. Everybody who is in your party or who's in your group must be here and must be ready to go, because this world does have a little desync issue. And what that means is that sometimes the points are not going to show up properly for them, or sometimes the survey answer. I know that Genesis is actively working to try and fix that, so hopefully in future updates that gets fixed. Family Feud, I feel like, is probably one of his most popular worlds. besides Wheel of Fortune. Because you know what? The amount of times I have seen people come to Family Feud is just astonishing. It is just absolutely amazing. And the fact that you can even play a full game of these different shows is just, it's mind-boggling to me. Now, you might think to yourself, okay, so we got Wheel of Fortune, we got Family Feud, but those are all old game shows. I want something that was more recent. Well, boy, I know one that was very recent. And we all tuned into it almost every night on ABC. In fact, it was even hosted by somebody who we know very well from daytime talk shows. And this was the only game show that asked the question, who wants to be a millionaire? Okay. So, let's say that you wanted something a little bit simpler, eh? Well, this is the map for you. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was a game show that actually popped up in the early 2000s, hosted by the one and only Regis Philbin, of, Regis and Kelly, Regis and Kathy Lee, and also all kinds of things as well. But the greatest thing about this world is that it is fully automated for the most part. Like, as you saw right there, that was the intro music that actually plays. But here comes the best part. This world has everything to it. In fact, let me go ahead and hit the player intro button so that way you can actually see the camera moving in action. So the other cool thing too is very simple. As you can see, the camera changed over to the player like it would in the actual game. And here comes the best part too. All you need for this world is simply one host. The camera will, come back to me in a second. All you need is one host, one player, and it would be best to have some audience members and somebody to phone. Phone, you may ask? Well, let me just go ahead and go over the rules really quickly because some of you probably weren't alive at the time that this show was on. It was very simple. 15 questions awaited you to get to the $1 million question. Once you reach the $1,000 or the $32,000 levels, you were guaranteed to leave here with at least that much money. And there was 3 lifelines, 50-50, where the computer would take away 2 of the wrong answers and leave 1 wrong answer and the correct one. You could ask the audience, which is where a lot of your friends would come in, and you could phone a friend. Because when you hit the phone a friend feature, there's a booth that pops up off the side of this world, and basically you can pretend to be the one that actually gets called, which is actually pretty cool. So now that we know kind of the rules and things like that, even though we don't have a player in the seat, I'm gonna go ahead and simulate kind of like how some of these lifelines work. So when that player was ready, you said, "Who wants to be a millionaire?" and hit "Let's play." And then, of course, if you're the host, you're the one that actually brings up the questions. So let's go ahead and do a sample question really quickly, and show you one of the $100 questions. Which of the following is not a symbol of good luck? So the camera would then go right back towards the player, and you would read out the answers. 4-leaf clover, rabbit's foot, horseshoe, broken mirror. Now it's up to the player on the other side to decide which one is the correct response. Now the other thing too is that on this side of the board there's a bunch of other cool things. In fact, let me go ahead and I'll bring the camera over to where I am. So let's go ahead and bring my little camera this way. Thank you very much. You can see here on my control panel, bring this down a little bit, there we go. As you can see, it can actually show you exactly which level the player is at, what question we are at, and how far down they would go if they end up losing. So one of the things is very simple. Let's say for example, the player decides to take the 50-50. Let's just say that. So they would select the 50-50 on their side, and then you would hit the 50-50 on your side, and now it leaves one wrong answer and the correct one, which is, pretty simple. And so we obviously know that that the thing that's not a symbol for good luck is a broken mirror. So the player will choose the answer, and as you can see here, you ask them final answer, and it will tell you what the correct answer is. Green button will appear, and now they've won $100. And then you just keep on going. And then you just keep on going from there. Like with this next question. A person who specializes in breaking open safes is called what? Safecracker? Safe houser? Safe lighter? Club treasurer? Now the other thing too is very simple. The player on the other side has the ability to also not only use the lifelines, but also say they want to walk away. So here's something that can happen. In fact, let's go ahead and simulate what would happen if they ask the audience. This is where a big group of people is probably the best thing to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the audience button over here. And when they say that they need help from the audience, you say, okay audience, he needs your help. So after you initiate it, on my side, you'll be able to give the keypads. And you basically repeat the question, saying what it is, including the possible answers, and then when you hit give keypads, then it will start to do the cycle. And therefore, everybody will have a chance to hit in A, B, C, or D. And then when you think everybody is done, you hit done, and you get the results. Now, of course, since nobody buzzed in, it'll basically say all the zeros and stuff. And then, of course, as a player, you do have the option to walk away, which, that can happen sometimes. You might run into a question that, even you can't understand. So that's where you would hit the walk away button right on the other side. And after that, you basically give the player a chance to, see what the right answer is, and of course, it would be Safecracker, which would be the answer to this. So let's make sure that was right. However, it looks like this thing got a little bit desynced, but that's okay. Millionaire can be a lot of fun, and can also expose your friends for not being the smartest tool in the shed. But hey, it's still a lot of fun, especially since you can win up to $1 million virtual dollars. But just think, imagine if this world allowed you to win the real money. Boy, I wouldn't even be here doing Vrchat 101. But still, this is definitely a world that you got to favorite, especially with Wheel of Fortune and Family Feud. And now let's head back to my house because I think Mr. Foxy's missing me. So now that we've seen all three of those game show worlds, those are some that you might want to favorite. Now there's plenty more game show worlds where that came from, but I decided to only show you guys 3 of them, just so that it's a little bit easier for us to check out. Wheel of Fortune tends to be very popular, and Family Feud is also pretty popular as well. Now with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I need to give you guys a little warning. Sometimes there can be a sync issue, especially with the fastest finger questions, so if you end up having something like that, then you might have to reboot the world or, do a different instance. However, check out these worlds, and who knows, maybe your game night will be a lot better than simply playing Murder 4, or Among Us, or, Freeze Tag of some sort. But that's going to do it for this episode of Vrchat 101. It's great to be back doing these things. If you guys want to see more of these, make sure you hit the like button, don't forget to comment down below, and of course subscribe and hit the bell so that way you guys know whenever I upload. So I'll see you folks next time in another VR chat. And who knows, maybe I might see you guys at Virality coming up in June. Until then, take care.